Hashtag the book that turned being busy into a warning sign. Look at your last week at work. Meetings, emails, Slack pings, fires to put out. You get to Friday exhausted. Now the harder question, what actually moved? Not tasks, real progress. If that makes you uncomfortable, you're not alone. You're exactly who Peter Drucker was writing to 60 years ago. Today's book is The Effective Executive, written in 1966 by the man who basically invented modern management. Back then, companies were minting managers by the thousand, and most of them had no idea what they were supposed to actually do. So they did what we all still do. They got busy. Drucker's argument still hits like a hammer. Being busy is not the same as being effective. In fact, they're often opposites. Asterisk asterisk. And here's the twist that makes this book different from every other management book you've seen. It's not about managing other people. It's about managing yourself. Drucker believed that in a knowledge economy, everyone is a manager. You are the CEO of your own output. If you can't run yourself, you have no business running anyone else. For things we're going to unpack, what effective actually means, how to run your time, how to bet on people's strengths, and how to make decisions that actually stick. The real definition of manager, it's not what you think. First, we need to fix two words, effective and manager. For most of the 20th century, management meant squeezing more output out of manual workers. Taylor's stopwatch. How many shoes per hour? Easy to measure. Easy to manage. Then the game changed. The people driving results weren't on assembly lines anymore. They were writing code, closing deals, designing products. Knowledge workers. And you can't stopwatch a knowledge worker. Their job isn't to do the thing right. It's to do the right thing. Completely different problem. So what does effective mean for a knowledge worker? Drucker's answer is one word: contribution. Are you producing something the outside world can actually use? If nobody can pick up what you make and run with it, you didn't contribute. You just worked. That reframes manager too. Forget the org chart. A manager isn't defined by title or headcount. A manager is anyone whose work materially affects the organization's results. A junior researcher who picks a direction that decides the company's next 5 years. That person is a manager. A soldier in a guerrilla unit who calls a shot that swings a battle, manager. Meanwhile, the guy shouting at 50 workers on the factory floor with zero say in what they build, he's a supervisor, not a manager. So the real question isn't, am I senior enough? It's, does my work move the needle? If yes, this book is about you. Why almost nobody is naturally good at this. Drucker said something that shocked me. In 45 years of consulting, he never, not once, met a born effective executive. High IQ? Doesn't do it. Deep expertise? Doesn't do it. In fact, brilliant people are often the least effective, because they assume their talent will carry them and they never build the habits that turn talent into results. Because the job is stacked against you. Drucker calls executives prisoners of the organization. For walls of that prison. 1. Your time isn't yours. Anyone can hijack your calendar. 2. You get sucked into daily fires. Nobody sets aside time to think about what actually matters. 3. Your work only counts if other people pick it up. So you spend half your life in cross-functional meetings just trying to move something an inch. 4. You start seeing only the inside of your company. You lose touch with the outside world your company is supposed to serve. Every executive faces these 4 walls. You can't tear them down, but you can learn to work inside them, and honestly, the people who look like they've escaped the prison, they just learned the trick. 3 habits. Time, people, decisions. Habit 1. Actually know where your time goes. Rule 0 of time management. You have no idea where your time actually goes. None of us do. And senior people are the worst. Drucker tells this story. A CEO confidently told him, 1/3 of my time goes to business discussions, 1/3 to clients, 1/3 to community. Drucker didn't argue. He just had the guy's secretary log every minute for 6 weeks. The truth? The CEO was spending most of his time personally chasing down late orders on the phone. The important stuff he thought he was doing barely happened. If you've never done this, do it. For 2 weeks, track where every hour actually went, in real time, not from memory. Memory lies. You will be horrified. That's the point. Once you have the log, 3 steps. Step 1, cut the pure waste. For every activity, ask 3 questions. Does this need to happen at all? If yes, does it need to be me? And this one hurts. Am I wasting other people's time? That standing meeting nobody wants to be in. Those emails you CC 12 people on. Kill them. Step 2, Fix the systemic waste. Some time suck isn't personal, it's structural. If the same crisis keeps hitting your team, that's not a crisis. That's a broken system. Drucker's line. A well-managed factory is boring. Nothing exciting happens because every possible crisis has already been anticipated and reduced to routine. A workplace running on constant heroics isn't impressive. It's badly designed. Step 3. Consolidate the fragments. Even after cutting waste, most executives find they only control about a quarter of their hours. And if that quarter is chopped into 15-minute slivers between meetings, it's basically useless. Real work has minimum viable time. Writing a serious report needs maybe 7 uninterrupted hours. Try doing it in 15-minute bites across 2 weeks. You'll spend the 7 hours and still have nothing. Same with a real conversation with a direct report. Under an hour and you're wasting both of you. Same with hiring. Drucker says effective executives spend hours on a single hiring call, thinking it through from every angle. Getting the wrong person into a key seat costs you years. So block the time. Work from home 1 day a week. Batch every routine task into one afternoon. Build a 2-3-4 hour block where nobody can touch you. And when you finally get that block, one rule. First things first and only one thing at a time. 2 traps to avoid. Don't finish yesterday's job just because it's already started. If a project no longer serves the future, kill it. Economists call this the sunk cost fallacy. Executives call it, but we already invested in it. Both are wrong. The past is paid for. The only question, does the next hour on this create more value than the next hour on something else? Don't let urgency set your priorities. The loudest problem isn't the most important problem. Real strategic work, thinking about the future, converting decisions into action, never feels urgent. It's always what you'll get to next week. And next week always turns into never. Habit 2. Bet on strengths, not absence of weakness. Every management book tells you to hire the perfect person. High analytical skill, great communicator, numerate, creative, emotionally intelligent. A martial arts black belt would be nice too. Drucker's response. Those people don't exist. Stop looking for them. And even if you found one, you probably couldn't afford them. So you have 2 realistic choices when building a team. Option A. People with big strengths and big weaknesses. Option B. People who are mediocre at everything with no obvious flaws. Which do you pick? Consider Lincoln. When the Civil War started, Lincoln kept picking generals with no obvious weaknesses. Solid resumes, no red flags. Meanwhile, Robert E. Lee was fielding generals who were flawed as hell, hot-tempered, insubordinate, personally chaotic. Lee's flawed generals crushed Lincoln's clean-cut ones for years. Eventually Lincoln got it. He put Ulysses S. Grant in command. Grant was a brutally effective battlefield leader. He was also, famously, a drunk. Lincoln's response, roughly, "If I knew what whiskey he drinks, I'd send a barrel to my other generals." Grant won the war. The principle: talent is unevenly distributed. The higher someone's peak, often the deeper their weaknesses. Pick people for their peaks. Design around the valleys. The question to ask about anyone on your team stops being, what can't they do? And becomes, what can they do that almost nobody else can? Then your job as a manager is to build a situation where that peak carries the load, and the valley doesn't matter. Drucker's summary: no organization achieves greatness by finding geniuses. It achieves greatness by making ordinary people capable of extraordinary things. 2 extensions most people miss. Manage your boss too. Your boss is human, has strengths, has weaknesses. Stop complaining about what they lack. Figure out what they're actually great at and use it. Boss is a natural closer? Bring them into key client meetings. Boss is a phenomenal writer? Get their help on the pitch deck. Here's the cold truth. If your boss doesn't get promoted, you don't get promoted. Helping your boss win is helping yourself win. And manage yourself the same way. Stop trying to become a well-rounded person. Figure out what you're actually built for. What kind of work do you fly through while other people are still figuring out where to start? Do more of that. Stop forcing yourself into work that fights your grain. Habit 3. Make fewer decisions, but make them right. Every movie about a CEO shows them making 100 split-second decisions before breakfast. Drucker says, that's not effectiveness. That's chaos with a suit on. The truly effective executive makes very few decisions. But the ones they make are the important ones, and they make them count. Also, decisions aren't the expensive part. Executing decisions is the expensive part. A decision that never gets implemented isn't a decision. It's a wish. If you spend all day making calls and none of them ever get carried out, you're not decisive. You're useless. So step 1 before any decision. Do we actually need to decide this? Decisions are like surgery, everyone carries risk. Good surgeons don't cut unless they have to. Sometimes the smartest call is to leave things alone. But once you do decide to act, commit. No half measures. No reflexive compromises. Alfred Sloan, the legendary CEO of General Motors, told Drucker something every executive should tattoo somewhere. Just write down what you think is right. Don't worry about whether we'll agree. Don't soften your recommendation so we'll accept it. First tell us what's right. Only then can we find the right compromise. There's a compromise that comes after you know the right answer. And there's a compromise that comes because you were afraid to name the right answer. Only one of those makes you effective. Next rule. For recurring problems, don't fix the symptom. Design the rule. If the pipe joints in your factory keep bursting, the wrong decision is to schedule more frequent replacements. The right decision is to ask why the temperature or pressure is so high and redesign the joint. Zhang Rumin, the guy who took hire from a bankrupt Chinese fridge factory to one of the world's biggest home appliance companies, said the first time he read this passage, it hit him like a truck. He built his entire operating system around one idea: turn every exception into a routine. And watch out for the sneakier version. Some events look like they're one-off, a major acquisition, a big crisis, a black swan. But zoom out and they're actually the first of many. Effective executives design principles for those too. Reactive management is a treadmill. You get exhausted and end up in exactly the same spot. Last rule on decisions. Never decide from a single option. If the answer is obvious, that's not a decision, that's just noticing. Real decisions live in the space between two or more options that each have real costs and real upsides. And if everyone in the room agrees immediately, effective executives get suspicious. Unanimous consent usually means people didn't actually think about it. FDR was famous for this. Every big decision, he'd hand the same question to two assistants who couldn't stand each other and tell each one to work on it in secret. He'd get two sharply opposed answers and could actually see the trade-off. Like a judge, you don't get to the truth by only listening to one side. Why this book still matters. Drucker wrote this in 1966. Factories, typewriters, cigarette smoke in boardrooms. Different world. And yet, reread what we just covered. Prisoners of the calendar. Fake productivity that never converts into real output. Teams built to avoid weakness instead of amplify strength. Decisions that never become action. Sound familiar? That's your Tuesday. The reason this book keeps working is that Drucker wasn't handing you tricks. He was handing you a way of thinking. He walks you through the situation, through the analysis, and lets you watch the conclusion assemble itself. You don't just remember the answer, you understand how the answer was reached, which means you can apply it to problems he never imagined. So if I could leave you with one takeaway, it's this: stop optimizing for how busy you look. Start optimizing for how much you actually contribute. ***, track your time. Bet on strengths, including your own. Make fewer decisions and commit to them fully. None of this is a talent. It's a habit. And habits, Drucker insists, anyone can learn. If this hit for you, hit like and subscribe. And in the comments, tell me, what's the meeting on your calendar this week that you know shouldn't exist? Name it. Just name it. That's step 1. I'll see you in the next one.